right, we got to talk about this Minnesota situation once again because I talked about this the other day, one element of it, but the more that's coming out, the more the whole thing is just like, what exactly happened here? You know, I got a lot of clips to play for you guys today, so sit back, relax, and let me know what you think in the comments. All right. First up, the story that's coming out now is that I guess police officers basically let this man walk into the house. Like they saw him with this realistic mask on, engaged in a gunfight with him, and basically just let him walk on in the house to pew some more folks. Listen to this news conference here update. Let's dive in.
As if he was a police officer. Belter approached Representative Hortman's home, again dressed as a police officer, wearing the tactical vest and body armor, and wearing that hyper-realistic mask. He was armed and carrying a flashlight. Before he entered the home, 2 Brooklyn Park police officers arrived at the scene. They too had been dispatched to check on Representative Hortman after learning of the shooting of Senator Hoffman. When they arrived at the scene, they saw Belter's black SUV parked in the driveway with the emergency lights flashing, and they saw Belter standing in front of the house several feet from the door. When Belter saw the officers get out of the car, he drew his weapon and began firing. He rushed into the house through the front door, firing into it. He repeatedly fired into the house, and when he entered, he murdered Representative Hortman and her husband, Mark. The Brooklyn Park police officers fired at Belter as he rushed into the home, but he escaped into the home and out the back. Officers recovered Belter's 9mm Beretta, along with the body armor and the mask, behind the home along his path of flight when he fled on foot. They later searched Belter's car, where they found 5 more firearms, including assault-style rifles and a large quantity of ammunition. Belter also had in his car notebooks containing a list of more than 45 Minnesota state and federal elected officials.
So this ain't making too much sense. So he had on body armor, but then he got rid of the body armor as he was leaving. And he had a weapon, but he got rid of the weapon as he was leaving. How does that even make sense? Why would you get rid of something that I'm assuming protected him, right? I would hope and I would assume that these cops have pretty decent aim, okay? Have been, put under fire at least a little bit in training, not literal fire, but in training, right? To actually hit the targets they're supposed to hit. So I'm assuming that they actually hit their target, center of mass. Maybe that's why he got rid of it. But even still, like, that at least wouldn't be the first thing on my mind to like, oh yeah, I'm just going to get rid of my vest and my weapon as I'm leaving out the back door so they can see exactly where I'm going. I mean, yeah, it might be a little obvious where you're going, but like leaving a trail of a weapon and your vest, like, that just doesn't make sense. And also, why didn't the officers run in behind him? I mean, safety, sure, I understand. You don't know if he's like getting inside and getting in position, but once he rushes in, right? Because apparently, like, he shot through the door to get through the door or something. That's what it sounded like to me. They came on the scene, saw him standing at the door or several feet away from the door. They got out, started walking up. He drew his weapon, started firing at them. I'm assuming they ran back to cover, returned fire. And in the midst of all of that, he stood at the front door and to get through it, and you didn't drop him. I'm just confused. I am so confused by this entire situation. Y'all let me know if y'all feel the same. Like, this doesn't make any sense. He's standing at the front door, firing through it while you're firing at him. Huh? I'm lost. I'm so lost. I'm so lost. And then once he gets inside, you hear him firing at people, maybe you wouldn't know that there were people. Well, I would assume you would hear screams, right? People don't just clock out instantly unless, maybe, depending on where you hit them. I would assume there were some screams, but even still, you hear him firing inside the home. The shots aren't coming through the front, so I don't know. This is all really confusing. Also, Manifesto, okay? First there was a manifesto, then there wasn't, apparently.
Our community helping us with this, so it's very complex and working on it. What I will tell you, when we did a search of the vehicle, there wasn't a manifesto that identified many lawmakers and other officials. We immediately made alerts to the state who took.
So there was a manifesto, but then shortly after that, there wasn't?
That came from initially.
Can you identify the potential motive here? It has been widely reported that the list, his hit list, contained names of people who are abortion rights supporters. And also, can you please release the names of the 2 other targeted victims who were fortunate to get away?
As I said, with respect to the other 2 potential victims, I think it's up to them whether they want to publicly identify themselves. As I said, it wouldn't surprise me if they do. They're elected officials, but that's their right. Obviously, they may have families and children and privacy interests that they need to sort through. So I'll let them do that. With respect to the potential motive, let me say this. There's been a lot of press coverage and speculation and discussion of a manifesto. I've seen nothing like a Unabomber-style manifesto in his writings.
So there wasn't a manifesto? Are you trying to hide something from us? Or did the first officials jump ahead a little bit? And I don't know. I'm just so confused. I'm so confused. And then apparently or allegedly he was a Trump supporter out of nowhere, out of the blue. Once we all started to figure out, oh yeah, this guy was definitely a Democrat. Now all of a sudden he was a Trump supporter.
Can you talk about his politics a little bit? I know that you had some discussions. I just wanted to
Well, everyone's calling him a Democrat. He's not a Democrat. He would be offended if people called him a Democrat. He, because of this board thing he was on for Governor Walz, it wasn't to serve. He was just serving the community. But I can't believe a political issue would cause him to do such a thing.
Did he ever bring up the senator or the representative who were targeted?
Like I was saying, no, he never talked about that.
I can't believe a political issue would cause him to do such a thing. Interesting. And especially interesting when you have Democrats coming out blaming Trump for this entire situation.
There was a state representative, Democratic leader of the state legislature in Minnesota killed over the weekend, a state senator shot. How would you describe the current political atmosphere in this country this morning?
I feel like Trump has really popped the lid off the rhetoric and the sense of hate and violence and promoted this type of an environment. It's profoundly disturbing for all of us. We have seen increased threats across the country. You're probably familiar with the pizza threats. We've seen more of that where pizzas or other food is delivered to people's families that they haven't ordered, just to say from the right wing, we know who you are, we know where you live. I can tell you all of our families feel a greatly heightened sense. And just let me just say, my heart goes out to the families in Minnesota. How horrific for the whole country, but in particularly we're holding the folks in Minnesota in our hearts.
Yeah, no place in this country.
So there you heard him blame Trump, of course, even though we have videos like this of Democrats calling for violence consistently and a lot.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick them.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is
white men, most of them radicalized to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
So you get the message. They've been calling for violence for a very long time, and all of a sudden now that somebody gets hurt, it's Trump's fault. Interesting. And just as a little refresher on this entire situation, that guy that said that Vance was a Trump supporter, this is the same guy who was reading that text, and I showed you guys this video in its entirety the other day, so you can go back and check that video out. But I find it quite interesting that he says that he's a Trump supporter, basically, when his whole situation seems fishy too. And I was explaining this to you guys the other day.
About this. I love you guys. I just don't know anything about this because you guys don't know anything about this. I love you guys, and I'm sorry for all the trouble. So, allegedly, Vance texts this gentleman, and he texts him, you guys don't know anything about this. Twice in one text thread, you guys don't know anything about this. It looks like this guy is fake crying, right, to me. And then he gets done, once he gets done reading the text. Yeah, I just don't want Jenny seeing it splashed on the...
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't run it big, but I mean, just
yeah, it's all right. I read it, that's...
Okay, that's
more
all right.
than
Totally fine.
What time
Totally
was
okay.
that?
Totally okay.
What time was that text?
I think it was 6:17
a.m.
Yeah.
Today?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just got over here. What did the text say?
I already missed it. I can't read it again. It takes too much out of me. But, yeah, I mean...
If that doesn't seem suspicious to you, then I don't know what suspicious means then. So, it looked like he was fake crying. Allegedly in the text, the guy says twice, you don't know anything about this. Why would anybody text that? You don't want to read it over again. You don't want to screenshot the text. Why can't you just screenshot it? You can minimize a screenshot, right? You didn't know what time it was, and then when you said the time, that time, if he's telling the truth, 6:17, that was after the entire incident had went down. Vance was on the run out wherever, I don't know where he ran to, but I think they found him in some woods actually, which that whole situation was kind of weird too. But like, there's so many questions regarding this entire situation. Y'all let me know your thoughts and your opinions on this in the comments, man. Do you think this was staged? Do you think the roommate knew about the entire situation? And even further, I forgot. Hold on. Wait a minute. There's more to this story, guys. So allegedly, his wife, Vance Bolter's wife, was caught allegedly fleeing. Yeah.
Tom Hauser, and Tom has new information from multiple law enforcement sources about Belter's wife being detained today, Tom.
Yeah, I've been working the phones for several hours, as you know, trying to track this down while we were all covering the manhunt here in the Twin Cities this morning. Sources tonight tell me the case was also taking a turn about 90 minutes to the north near Onamia in Mille Lacs County. Multiple law enforcement sources with direct knowledge of what happened tell 5 Eyewitness News there was a traffic stop at a convenience store near Onamia. Between 10 and 11 a.m. this morning, law enforcement made a traffic stop involving a vehicle carrying several relatives of Vance Belter, including his wife. We have talked to an eyewitness who says about a dozen law enforcement squads converged on the vehicle and remained on the scene for 2 to 3 hours. We are also told by several of our sources the vehicle contained a weapon, ammunition, cash, and passports. Now, to our knowledge, no one in that group has been arrested, just detained for questioning. It's also unclear why they were stopped, whether they were being tracked, or if it was a random traffic stop. I am told briefings about this incident are ongoing yet tonight, and we will continue to track more developments And again, sources say Vance Belter's wife is among those detained for questioning. And I did have one source very late in the evening, just before the newscast, say that she was being tracked. So this was not a random traffic stop. They had an idea of where she was, and they were able to track her down. Again, we're still gathering more details, and we'll have much more coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, weird situation. Wife, I don't know what was going on. Maybe she wasn't fleeing. Maybe she was getting out of Dodge just in case things went left because, you know, or if people wanted to retaliate. But I don't know. And she took some firearms to protect herself. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But this whole situation is just weird. It reeks of something we're being deceived here, you know, in my humble opinion. So yeah, like I said, get in the comments, man. Let me know what you think about this entire situation. There's so much going on. What do you think? How do you think this is going to conclude? What do you think is the actual truth? Talk to me. I'm interested to read your thoughts and your opinions on this. So as always, stay safe out there. Thanks for tuning in. As always, peace and love. I'm out.